Hi everybody, in this project we are going to deal with atmospheric perspective, or how values change as they go back in space. They will get duller, lighter, maybe a little fuzzier. And we're going to draw using this concept. This project also has to do with foreground, middle ground, and background. We've talked about that before, but this time we're not doing it with the size or placement of objects. We are doing it with value and how we use value to show foreground, middle ground, and background. Now, before we do this project, there's something I want you to practice. I want you to practice making different values with your pencil. You could also do this with a colored pencil. I'm going to start by making 3 rectangles. This does not need to be perfect. It's just important that you have 3 sections that you're going to make your values in. Now, using a pencil or colored pencil, in the first rectangle, I'm going to make the darkest value I can. Do this by pushing as hard as you can with the pencil without breaking it. Fill in the entire rectangle. In the second rectangle, make a medium value. Don't push quite as hard as you did in the first one. Fill in the whole rectangle. In the last rectangle, I'm going to push very lightly with my pencil and make a very light value. You can also do this exercise or make values with colored pencils. That's fun to do also. So now we have 3 values we've made with our pencil. You could do the same exercise with 5, 6, 10, 20, 100 different rectangles and make different values in each one of them. I will sometimes practice my values when I draw on the back of a sheet of paper and then draw on the front. Now we're going to use those 3 different values you made when we make our cityscape drawings with atmospheric perspective. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw the shapes for the foreground of my city. I'm going to draw buildings in. I'm going to make them different sizes, give it as much variety as I can, make it interesting, make it go all the way across the bottom of your paper. This is going to be for your foreground. Now when you have your foreground drawn in, we're going to start to add value to it. We're going to use the number 1 value, the darkest value you did on the last sheet. We're going to try to make that value across the entire city or the entire foreground of the city that we have already drawn. Be neat and take your time. We don't want it too scribbly. It should be one solid value as you go across. This is your darkest value we're going to use again. If you would like to do this in colored pencil, I'm fine with that. It works with colored pencil too. If not, just use a normal pencil. Now, I'm going to add the middle ground. I'm going to put middle ground buildings behind my foreground. I'm just going to do the shapes, make them go a little bit higher than the foreground buildings. Good variety is also important here. Make them different shapes, different heights, but make it go all the way across your paper. This is going to be for your middle ground. When you're done with the middle ground buildings, when you're done outlining them, you're going to start to fill in those with your middle value. Not the darkest, not the lightest, your middle one. Again, just keep going. Do your best to make it neat, not scribbly. Try to make the same value within the whole middle ground. This might take some practice. Going over it again, making it a little bit darker if you've made it too lighter is just fine. You can also do that with the dark tone, with the dark value. After you've done your middle ground buildings, we're going to move on and do our background buildings the same way. We're just going to make outlines where they're supposed to go, make them up a little bit higher, and make them different shapes so we have good variety. After we're done with our background building, we're going to fill them in with our lightest value. This can be the hardest one to make. Just kind of barely push it all when you're pushing with your pencil. Looks like you can barely see the building. But that's really how your eye sees when you look at buildings far away. They'll be fuzzier, and you won't see them as well. Keep going until you've filled in your background buildings with the lightest value. And if you need to touch up some of the places where you've maybe smudged it in the sky, it's okay to put a little bit of eraser in there. That'll bring your sky back. And so I hope you like doing atmospheric perspective. This is just a basic way to show depth or going back in space. And I bet you'll start to see it in paintings, and I bet you'll start to see it in real life. I can't wait to see yours.